All right, let's give this another shot here. See if this works. And just wait for some people to come on. Okay. No. Okay. All right. What's up? Marshall Bishop. I see you. Good deal. Just let me know if you guys can hear me. And then we'll start here. I'm just going to set up. Let's see here. Do. There's that. 1 second. So obviously I'm in a different room. I'm not in my office anymore. Back in the prepper pantry. But I have a tablet here that I'm hoping will function as like a screen to yeah, a lot of money. But I have a tablet going here. I'm going to try to block out my face. To try to function as like a way to read comments, because it's really difficult for me to read everyone's comments on my phone, because I do these live feeds from my phone, and the comments just don't show up very well on the phone. So, and I'm trying to read everybody's comments, but now, hold on. Now I'm having problems getting the comments to pop up. This is annoying. Sorry. Well, if I can't fix this, give me like 10 more seconds. I'm going to try to fix this. I'm having issues with YouTube today. I got weird stuff going on. This is just not working. I can't see my comments on my tablet screen, which is the whole point of me having a tablet screen. And I'm not sure how to get them to come up. All right, I'm going to... Hi, Flash, UK here too. That gonna work? Live chat? Okay, there we go. Well, at least I got the live chat up. Okay. Top chat, blah, 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 blah. All right. You guys see the chat? Is the chat popping up? And everything looks like it's functioning okay? I'm just going to turn off this tablet because it's not doing me any good now. Okay. All right. Oh, well. We'll give it another shot next time. Anyways, I came down here with a cup of coffee, and that's long gone. I just had too much stuff going on, trying to solve out these issues today with YouTube. It's kind of weird. I had like 50 subscribers just disappear. Well, actually, first I had like a bunch of subscribers pop up, and then I had a bunch disappear. So I don't I don't know what that's all about. It's still showing I have uh, I have what I did have on my YouTube channel, but then on my YouTube, my analytics, like my studio page, it's showing something different. So not sure what's going on, but anyways, welcome everybody. Uh, I'm gonna try to do one of these live streams like once a week. Believe it or not, they're easier for me to do than like videos. The videos just require so much time and effort and editing and all that stuff, and I still haven't figured all that stuff out. And it's easier for me to just come on here and just kind of wing it, believe it or not. But so before this started, I started jotting down some different ideas and topics to talk about. And the one thing that's popped up, and this kind of ties into most of the live streams I've been doing, which is it's kind of community related. Um, so like I said, I mean, the kind of the mantra of this channel is that it's a self-reliance network. I kind of want to try to create a network of people, and a network of ideas that everybody can share, and stuff like that. So but today's topics was secession movements, and that kind of ties into what the last few live feeds I've done as far as creating little communities. Now, a secession movement it's kind of a lot more radical than what I have in mind. And they have been kind of attempted, believe it or not, more than you think, like within the United States. I think most typically when people think of secession, they think of states, like an actual state seceding, like from the Union, or joining another state and expanding that way. I know there's a big secession movement. Hasn't really materialized into anything, but there's a big secession movement within the Northwest states where I am. So Idaho, uh, East Washington, and East Oregon, I believe, kind of want to join up with Idaho and create one big state, or just basically be the state of Idaho and just be bigger. Um, Honestly, I don't really see that going anywhere. The way I kind of see things, I mean, you might think it's a little nihilistic or whatever, pessimistic, but to me it's just realistic. I think that the patterns that I'm observing is that there's like an overriding, there's a power that runs everything, and they're just not going to let things. I don't think things happen by mistake. I don't think things really happen organically. I mean, it does happen sometimes by mistake. It's rare, but I think we're very, very much controlled as a country. I'll make sure that there's you guys commenting in the comment section. Okay. Just reading the last one is hi, Mr. Flogs. All right. But as far as secession movements, in the sense that a state seceding from the union, I'm not really a big believer in those. I think it's wishful thinking. I mean, honestly, if one of those were going to happen, they would have happened by now. So it doesn't matter how much support you get for one. There's so much that would have to go into it, and honestly, I don't see a lot of these states, especially these blue states, really letting any anything like ever ceding territory. Just don't see it happening. They just have too much of a death grip on this country. However, that doesn't mean you can't, create some type of, there actually has been a secession movement that was fairly successful. There's other obstacles and things that come up with these movements anytime you try to start a group for that matter. um, you're going to run into issues, and a group, especially a group that's trying to separate itself from uh, the government in any shape, way, or form. So there was a pretty successful movement in the back east called the Free State Movement, and it was a libertarian movement that started out, I think, in 2001, and it was a group of libertarians that pretty much took over a section of New Hampshire, I believe. And there was an article that I read. I was prepared to kind of read it, but it was a little too controversial. I was trying to curtail the article as much as I could, but I just ended up ditching it because I just didn't want to get in trouble on YouTube. So, uh, but what I kind of liked about the movement, and there's a lot to learn from it. However, that movement didn't, just like every good movement, it got infiltrated, and by the very thing that it was trying to probably avoid, and then it just kind of imploded on itself. And I'm not sure there's a lot of people following that movement, but I think the general idea was to try to get away. Was a lot of the people who joined the Free State movement were coming in from New York, um, and Massachusetts, trying to escape a lot of these draconian laws and measures that were being instituted. And it did pretty well, but for a little while. But then if anybody's been following the Libertarian Party, wow, Welsh. That's where my family's from. And that's why our name is Price. Our last name is Price. I get a lot of comments about my Welsh heritage. But welcome if you guys are just joining. Let's see here. I had some bad lighting in this pantry, so hopefully I don't have too many shadows going on in my face right now. Tons of, yeah. That's good that we're still there's still some of us left in our motherland. Um yeah, maybe someday I'll visit. Maybe I'll escape there. I don't know. How is it there? Is it safe? Clean? Um anyways, back to the topic here. So yeah, the Free State Project kind of imploded on itself. And but they had the right idea going in so much, because a lot of these secession movements, the one thing they don't keep in mind is that they're landlocked. So for instance, like the biggest movement that's going on in like this Northwest secession movement, which is comprised of Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, it's just not a very smart uh smart move, because they're landlocked. We have no ocean. We have no ocean access, which means you wouldn't be able to have a port, and it's just not a very good position to put yourself in geographically, especially if you're trying to secede from the Union, or just secede, just trying to secede. Um, because I mean, we're kind of like in hostile territory. I mean, you start making moves like that, the state is going to, and when I say the state, I mean the U.S. is going to probably see that as like a threatening, a threatening posture, and so I don't know. It's there's a lot of dangers that come into trying to really just trying to separate yourself from laws. It's almost impossible to get away from all the corruption that's going on. But the way, I mean, the fact is that like this two-party system that we have going on in this country is it's just become so walled off and corrupt that it's, you know, collapse is inevitable at this point. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. um, but even coming out here, my family and I moved out here 8 9 years ago, um, from California. And um, you know, originally we weren't, when we first, we knew we were going to move, but you know, leaving California wasn't really in the in our plans in the beginning, because essentially we were trying to kind of stay close to our family because we had a baby coming. You know, we had we're new family, and we didn't want to, you know, just go completely solo and not have anybody to help us out. So we were trying to kind of stay close. But the thing is that most people, so this is kind of the how it goes in California, in case you're wondering, for freedom minded people, people are trying to kind of escape the degeneracy and corruption that has overtaken California. The progression of, believe it or not, and I can tell you, I can attest to this because I was born in Southern California, and by the time um, we had moved, I was in about as far north as you could possibly get, and that's pretty much the progression of the degeneracy. Is it starts south and it moves north, um, and the thing is, there's still, not to say that California is totally lost. It's not. There's still a few strongholds, I guess you could say, left. Um, you know, and I say that kind of loosely, but you know, just areas that haven't completely succumbed um, uh, to the corruption and degeneracy that like places like San Francisco have. So there's still parts in Northern California that are still pretty beautiful and still relatively safe and functional. But the issue that we were running into was that a lot of those areas in Northern California are heavily um, like inundated with the marijuana culture, and like the cart and the because of that the cartels have come in, because that Northern California region is like, it just produces this perfect climate for growing a very popular and specific type of marijuana. And so because of that, it's attracted a lot of drug dealers, and so that region has just become kind of the marijuana industry. And as a result, you know, it brings in crime, and and then and real dangerous crime. And then once the cartels came in, then it was just over, because even the forestry, like a lot of the forestry departments, wouldn't even go out and deal with it because it was just so dangerous. And so I was like, well, I'm not having that. I'm not going to go move up into the mountains, and then not be able to even go into the mountains because I'm afraid of being shot. So anyways, we checked that off. And so you know, the next state up is Oregon, and um, Oregon is kind of the same story, same kind of situation we found there. And so we had spent so much time driving around Oregon, and I was thinking, gosh, we're just so far from, you know, our family at this point. We might as well just shoot straight over to Idaho. it's another day's drive. It's like, what difference does it make? You know, 1 day to two days. So that's what we did. Um, Spent a little time looking for a house. Found a good place. Um, and Yeah, this time I was like, I'm gonna learn my lesson. This time I'm gonna start as far north at the state as I possibly can, and that way I can buy some time, because I just knew that, you know, if this place is gonna go, it's gonna go the same way as California. The rot is always, it starts at the bottom and it just moves up. Um, it's just the nature of it, I guess. And so that's a whole nother story. Uh, I've kind of dodged telling that story, but we ended up living in a town in far north Idaho called Bonners Ferry, and maybe one day I will tell you what took place there. But it was I don't know. Someday we'll see. Might be my last show, but that's a great. It was some crazy stuff went on. That's all I'll say for now. But we ended up moving a little further south, and been happy where we are ever since. But back to the secession movement. Yeah, it's. I mean, if you were looking to try to secede and really create and try to be in a very self-sustained and self-contained area, an inland state probably wouldn't be the best move, because if things really go bad and you're having to rely on local municipalities or local you know, just the means of acquiring things locally, you're going to be relying on, you know, having access to a port, like direct access. So that's why they ended up that movement, the Free State movement, chose New Hampshire. Also because it was extremely affordable, and this is something I had no idea, but and probably not so much now. It's gotten a lot more expensive, but there's areas in Maine that are extremely affordable. You can get like 200 acres of land there for like under 300,000. So it's roughly like $1,600 an acre or something like that, or $1,800 an acre, which is extremely cheap. And there are, believe it or not, there are like towns, I mean, small towns that essentially, I mean, if a group wanted to get together and put some money together, I mean, just a little bit of startup like money, you could literally just buy a town. And, and, you know, and if you were like you and your group of people were the majority of that town's population, it'd be easy to just have your way politically, democratically, of course. Um, but Yeah, I mean, you could be the sheriff, you could be the mayor, and be the, you know, in charge of the school district and all that. And it's, you know, it's definitely it's a I don't know. It's a nice thing to entertain. I don't know how realistic it is. I think, if anything, you're better off just trying to create communities within your neighborhoods and maybe spread out that way. So, for instance, in the area that we live in, it is kind of, we are kind of isolated because we're kind of far out from the city, and it's all the houses out here, it's pretty spread out, but there are families out here, and people do this area. This actually, the area that we lived in, actually at one point was very self-contained. There was actually a school here that was just for this community that we're in. And I don't know if there was ever a store, but I know there was definitely a lot of farmers, and so and that raise cattle, and so people were able to get their food and everything just from within the area, and so that is something that I think is totally probable and doable, and it's something that I believe that people should be, as preppers, I think we should be more focused on that and just creating these communities. It's kind of the first, if you're looking at this world that we're in as a threat, which it is. I mean, we have threats all around us. You want to like create as many levels of security as you can. So obviously I do these videos about bugging out, and they're entertaining, but the fact is that bugging out is like your absolute last means of defense. I mean, you should have lots of layers of defense before you get to a point where you're grabbing bags and guns and running. Uh, so I think that first layer of defense should be a self-contained and self-sustained community. That's what I think your first layer of defense should be. Um, and it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. Um, mainly because people aren't very communicative anymore. People, they're just not good at socializing. People don't want to talk. People have become very inverted, and and I think technology, cell phones, and the internet has played a big role in that. Is that people have spent so much time on their phones, that they just aren't communicating with each other anymore. And I think people have become jaded, and they don't. There's a lot of distrust, and politics obviously plays a big part in that. We've just become very divided politically. I mean, there's like a lot of and I've been noticing just a lot of strife within, um, just in conservative movements or even in the prepping movements. I mean, you would think that like the one area where you wouldn't have like a lot of strife and people, taking shots at each other would be in the prepping movement. It's like, come on, I mean, we're like total social outcasts, like everywhere in the world. The last thing you want to do is come into like a prepping circle and start ripping on each other. So and it's not that common. I mean, I see it a lot. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's like if you ever you want to get an idea of the integrity of the prepping community, just start a prepper YouTube channel and then read the comments. Uh, but most of them are are constructive, but some of them, geez, um, I think a lot of times I know I kind of refer to it as purity spiraling, when people just get too they just get too opinionated about how things should be done, and they just, I don't know, they can't let it go. These people feel like prepping and preppers should be a certain way. Um, so, but yeah, just getting back to the secession, I mean, I'm calling it a secession movement, but it really isn't. It's just kind of tying into that. Um, like I said, I don't think that the secession movements are worthwhile, and mainly because it's just too big, and they would get corrupted so quickly. We have big problems in this country that are at the root, and most people don't even realize, I mean, where, like, how deeply rooted our problems are and how long they've been going on. um as far as, like, zooming out and looking at the problem facing, because most people just see, we see mass immigration, like, and the banks collapsing and the devaluation of the dollar, but those are all effects, of a much bigger problem that's a lot deeper. And it's gonna take people a long time to wake up to it, because we have been propagandized as a people for so long. And the fact is, the propaganda was very good. It was very good propaganda. um, and it's been going on for a very long time. And it's going to take a long time for people to wake up. Thank God we have the internet. I mean, it's obviously, when the internet came on the scene and people like me, um, and other, not that I'm like a, not that I really see myself as like a, I don't want to be a political commentator or something like that, or a political content creator. I want to stay focused on prepping, but it does, at some point when you're talking about prepping stuff, it's impossible to avoid it. It's going to come up, because at the end of the day, I mean, the fact is, we're all prepping because of, like, something that's related to the political strife that's going on. But that is one of the questions. I wanted to make a post and I didn't have the time to do it, but I wanted to make a post and put it out there and see what everybody, like, to the different preppers that are out there, like, what's the one thing that you're actually most worried about? Like, what's the thing that you think is the most probable and that you're preparing for? Because I know for me, it's always been the same thing, and I think for most people, it's the same thing, which is, an economic collapse, basically. And then the next thing would probably be, um, civil disorder, would be like the next threat that would just follow suit with the economic collapse. But how it's going to collapse, I don't know. It didn't really matter to me. A lot of people think that the dollar's going to collapse, but and I've spoke on this before, I don't think, if the dollar collapses, it's because it was designed to collapse, which means that if it's designed to collapse, that the solution, uh, is designed as well. So, but I'm not one of these people at this point that thinks there's going to be a giant, implosion, or it's not going to be a big dramatic thing. I think it's going to happen like most stuff, where it's just kind of gradual, and they just kind of groom you into this, a lower and lower quality of life. Just because I think that, the powers that be know that if there was truly, like, a collapse and things really got chaotic and disorder, it would present an opportunity for a for you'd have that much disorganization and chaos. That just kind of creates an opening for you don't have as much control, and it creates an opening for something that they didn't plan to kind of come in and take over. So that's why I don't see something like a war or something like happening, uh, or just like a total depression where people are literally starving. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. I think that what's going on is that's what's been taking place, that is just so much planning behind it, and that this whole thing is just going to be orchestrated, from beginning to end. So that's why I kind of stress that what we can do is, for those of us who have families, My goal, obviously, I've brought this up before, is to try to keep my children as unexposed to this stuff as possible, um, and just try to maintain a semblance of peace and happiness um, while all of this is going on with my kids. That's pretty much my goal now. And the way I achieve that is by trying to become as self-sustainable and create this community. So, for instance, um, we homeschool our kids, and we homeschool our kids because the school, we can't trust the schools anymore. I mean, it's that simple. The schools were bad when I was going to school in the 90s. It was bad. And it's just gotten so much worse now. Um, the stories I hear from friends of mine that have their kids in public school, even the private schools, I mean, there's just nowhere you can really go. I mean, the only real option you have, I mean, if you want to guarantee that your kids are going to be, um, safe, is to just do it yourself. And a lot of people have reached that conclusion. Um, um, and it's not easy, that's for sure. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to make in order to do it. I mean, I hear a lot of excuses, and I'll tell you, I couldn't do it if I wasn't didn't put myself in the position that I was in before I had family. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Um, you know, but I was in a very unique situation before my wife and I had kids. I kind of knew what I had to do in order to make this work. And I tell you, and I was only able to do it, I'm telling you, because I was I didn't have kids at the time. I knew the kids were coming because my wife was pregnant, but I was already on this path of self sustainment before my family came. But then when I realized my family was coming, it was like, okay, I'll just change my plans a little bit. But I knew that if I'm gonna make this work, hello, if I'm gonna make this work, then I have to get my overhead as cheap as possible. Meaning, I cannot have a mortgage payment. I cannot not have a car payment. I can't have a huge cell phone payment. I can't have huge bills. There's no way I won't be able to pull it off. Um, and I was terrified. I think like mostly of like, if there is an economic collapse, and I have like a home loan, and I you know owe a bank 300 grand on my house, and then all of a sudden the economy collapses and I don't have any more work and I can't afford that mortgage payment, then I'm homeless with kids. So that was like not going to be an option. So obviously I knew it was like, okay, well then I can't have a home loan, which means I'm going to have to buy my house outright. And I wasn't a rich person, which means, okay, I'm gonna have to buy a really dumpy house, and that's exact in a really dumpy area, and that's what I did. Not really dumpy, but a very oh, what's the word to describe far north Idaho? Just a very unique area, that not a very kind of undesirable area, but safe. So I found that area very undesirable, but safe and affordable. And so that was what I was looking for, and we found it in far north Idaho. Um, Safe to an extent, but not very safe if you're a prepper. Believe it or not, a lot of people are going up there as preppers, and uh, there's what should I say about it? I don't know. There's a lot of people that rule that area up there that um, are threatened of a lot of the type of people that are moving there. And so, anyways, you can read about it. I mean, there's stories. There's a history there. You just You can just Google far north Idaho and you'll see the stories that happened, like that took place in the 80s, and that stuff's still going on. That's all I'll say. And it's going on because the people that rule that area are are just not friendly to the local inhabitants there. Sorry for being so vague, but uh, so yeah, I think creating a community. So right now, and I brought this up. We have a community hall in our area, and we can hold functions there, and you can organize. You can reach out to people. We have like an email list of the people in our area. You can advertise that way, and you create a network any way you can. So if you're living in town, I mean, you can put up flyers. You can just ask your city that you're trying to put together a network of people who are, um, you can just start it out as like a homeschooling network, which is one of the things my wife's working on right now, is creating a homeschool group. And and then that's a really good way to connect with people who are like-minded without making a big statement about it. It's kind of a way of connecting with like preppers without saying, hey, preppers, let's all connect, because that's a recipe for trouble. You don't want to be starting like a prepper group, uh, you know and let's get together and do some firearm training this week. That's just a recipe, unfortunately, but that's just a recipe for trouble. You're going to have bad actors infiltrating those types of groups, and people people get hurt. So stay away from that stuff. I mean, I just say, when you're creating your communities, just keep it wholesome. And it's not to say that you can't connect with other people and do firearm training stuff like that, but like keep it like low key. Stay away from groups like that have names and have flags and have symbols, stuff like that. Um, but just keep it low key, keep it local. Um, just within your neighborhood, stuff like that, or within your family. Just keep it tight is kind of what I'm saying, and let the foundation of the group always be more more focused, like on homesteading, farming, homeschooling, that kind of stuff. Canning, you can do canning groups where people get together, they teach each other how to can, stuff like that. Um, so, um, the other thing that I've been working on lately is we have, so right now we have 24 chickens in our chicken coop. And so we had, let's see, 17, no, was it 24? No, it was 21. Sorry. We had 21. So we started out with a dozen, and they dwindled down to like four because the coyotes and raccoons and everybody and all the predators here like took so many of our chickens. So they cut our flock down to four, and then we brought 17 chicks in, got them early spring, and they just like this last week started laying. And so, and it's fun. So now we're getting how many are we getting? We're probably going to be getting like 17 eggs a day. So it's going to be probably more than that, like 20 something eggs a day. Uh, so close to 2 dozen eggs. But the object, sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but the object, what I'm trying to figure out is how a way of, or a means of like getting these chickens like sustainable. And if that means like if I can figure out a way to feed them without spending money on feed, or I can sell the eggs, um, like sell half. I'll figure out a way. I'm gonna have to do the crunch the numbers on it. But I think, I mean, if we figure out how many eggs we need to sell per, to feed them. I'm sure there's a magic in number there somewhere, but that's kind of my goal with getting that many chickens, is to get to a point so we could have eggs, or they'll replenish our, and we can have eggs, and then we sell the rest, and then that money goes to go, buying their food and all of that stuff, and then that way it's a totally self-sustained situation, because that is kind of one of the big threats, is that if you're into farming, and this happened, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it was just during all the food shortages. We had feed shortages with the chickens as well, and it was kind of just something that you don't think about until it happens, and it's like, oh yeah, like what, here I am feeling safe and prepared because I have chickens, but then I'm like, what happens if the chickens, there's no feed at the feed store and it's in the middle of winter? I mean, I don't know what I could feed them. And if we're running low on food, I mean, you can feed them scraps, but scraps only go so far. I mean, these chickens eat a ton of food. So I'm going to have to figure that out, and then probably start buying all of their food for the winter. And so that way I can guarantee that we can keep them fed through the winter. And then that, in that case, in worst case scenario, if there is food shortages or feed shortages, um, they happen in the summertime, and then I can free range them at that point, and they can just eat the grass or whatever. But it's just getting them through the winter is the tough part, because they do rely solely on grain. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. That's pretty much covered my topics. I did. I don't know if those of you, if anyone bought anything during this Amazon deal week or whatever. Who were some okay deals? I ended a really cool loadout bag, which I'm going to be doing a video on soon. But it's just a big duffel bag with lots of compartments around it, and I mainly got it as like a for like clothes, for when we go camping and traveling. I just like to have a big duffel bag that I can fit, my jacket, sweatshirts, pants, and all that stuff in, and then keep my socks, underwear, and shirts and everything separate. So, but I got this bag. It's huge. It's like really cool. So I started thinking this could actually have a lot of different uses. So um, I started kind of putting some loadout gear, and so I'm going to be doing a video, probably a couple of videos on it, and just different concepts I have as far as what I could load out this bag with. So keep an eye out for that. It will kind of be like a family bug out video, where basically it's kind of what I would take if things really got bad and the family and I need to evacuate. And I mean, like, really bad, like if we were going into World War III or something, bad was happening. um Kind of the things that I would do to address a situation like that. So see the chat here. Well, it's getting kind of late. How long have I been doing this? 50, almost an hour. It's kind of weird. I think there were like 4 people in the chat or who commented were all in different countries, it looked like. So it was somebody from Scotland, maybe somebody from Wales, and then somebody from Asia, somewhere in Asia. I don't know, did I have that right? I'm having in this pantry here, and these mice, like I've killed so many mice, and I think like the ones that are left have become the smartest. It's like, this is how like evolution, you know, it's like the what do they call it, like I can't even think of it, but it's kind of the evolution. You end up killing off all the dumb mice, and then you're just left being, and then you just keep breeding a higher IQ mouse, and then before long they're just uncatchable because they just yeah, you've just ended up creating this biological disaster, this biological war in your house. So now I'm dealing with the smartest of the mice, and they're definitely winning. But they're just starting to kind of destroy a lot of stuff in this pantry. And I'm not even sure how they're getting up on the shelves, but they got this. This is like one of these bags, and I thought for sure, but I saw the, so you can see the little hole. They started chewing through it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever seen these things. I always keep an eye out, but if you go to like grocery stores, they'll sell these dehydrated meals, and this is like a minestrone one, but it's just add water, and they're really cheap, and they taste okay. Definitely not as good as freeze dried, but they are better for you because they're not freeze dried. Better for you in some ways where um, they're probably not as nutritious, but there's less chemicals in there, in the dehydrated ones, but they don't last. They don't last nearly as long. But thing is like once you dehydrate stuff, it pretty much loses all of its nutritional value. So, all right, well, um, probably gonna sign off now. Thanks for tuning in. If you think of any other topics that I could discuss, I'm going to try to do a live stream again next week. And I don't know, probably, I was probably just thinking of doing a live stream on homesteading. So, anyways, if you guys can think of anything else, let me know in the comment section. And until the next video, stay prepared.